That's a weird little game changer that blew my mind. Let me know in the comments down below if that's something that you didn't know.
Like an Instant Pot or pressure cooker.
Instant Pot, for sure.
You need an Instapot.
Since we've gotten this thing, I have not cooked rice on the stove. I have not bought a can of beans. Your Instant Pot can be your kitchen's secret weapon. But I also know it can be intimidating for those that haven't used it before or come from a different generation where things like this used to go boom. And I know that some of you watching this have bought one of these and it's still in the box. So in today's video, we are going to demystify the Instant Pot and modern pressure cookers in general. I'm gonna share my favorite tips, some hacks. We're gonna go through the basics of how to make grains and beans in this thing. Essentially, we're gonna teach you how to tame this thing and turn it into your best friend in the kitchen. Greetings and welcome to or welcome back to PB with Jay. Here on the channel, we focus on all things plant-based goodness, and today we're gonna do a deep dive into the Instant Pot. Know that when I say Instant Pot, I'm talking about pressure cookers in general. This video is not sponsored by Instant Pot. That said, if this does inspire you to buy one, I do have a link in the description down below that if you use that link to buy it or any other pressure cooker on Amazon, we do get a little bit of a kickback from it. So if you want to support the channel and you want to get something like this, please use that link. It would be super duper awesome. So in today's video, I'm going to break down how it works. 10 essential tips for using the Instant Pot like a pro. How to cook staples like beans, grains, and legumes in this thing. I also just want to point out that we've had this thing for a long time, so it is far from factory perfect in terms of its cleanliness. Please don't Instant Pot kitchen appliance shame me. I gave it a quick little wipe down, but you know, it looks like it's been used a lot, which it has been. Honestly, we use this thing, if not daily, sometimes multiple times a day. We use it probably at least 5 to 6 times a week. If you've watched our videos and you've seen us eat beans or grains or make a soup, we probably use this. If I have oatmeal, I use this. And the main reason is it's because it's consistent and rock steady. But before we go further into detail on all of that, I'd like to say hello to some of you who've said hello to us in the comments down below. Hanky in the garden from Lanesburg, Michigan. What you doing in the garden, Hanky? Janet from Illinois. Jeanette from Montreal. Lydia from Colorado Springs. Wanda from St. Augustine, Florida. Kelly from Vernon, BC. Pam from Newmarket, Ontario. Manuel from Melbourne, Australia. Amanda and her kids from Langley, BC. Hi, kids. Anna from the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Susan from Massachusetts. And Anna Maria from Sweden. If you'd like a shout out here on the channel, all you have to do is say hi to us in the comments down below. Let us know who you are, where you're watching from, and let us know what your favorite thing to make in the Instant Pot is, or what you'd like to make in it if you weren't so scared of it. And hopefully by the end of this video, you won't be anymore. And if you want to be part of a supportive, like-minded community who is not scared of their Instant Pot, at least I hope so, consider joining us over the Mighty Network for a group of like-minded individuals, a bump up on that shout out list, and lots of other perks for the price of a crappy cup of coffee a month. So how does it work? The Instant Pot is just essentially a high-tech modern version of an old school pressure cooker, although safer and more versatile. At its core, it essentially uses pressure to cook food. Here's how it works. When you turn it on, the liquid inside turns into steam and creates pressure inside the pot. And since the steam can't escape, the pressure inside the pot continues to build. And this is where the magic happens because under pressure, the water boils at a higher temperature than normal. Like around the 245 degrees compared to a typical 212. This is in Fahrenheit. And so what does that mean? It means everything cooks quicker because that steam is penetrating the food in a deeper, faster way than just boiling water would. So that means that things like beans, grains, and vegetables soften up in a fraction of the time. And because the steam is locked in, it actually traps more flavor, moisture, and nutrients. So not only does it cook fast, but your food comes out tender and packed with flavor. And I get it. Pressure cookers historically have had a reputation for being a little scary, especially if you grew up in the 1950s and 60s. The good news is that modern pressure cookers have tons of safety features built into them to make them safe. It's got sensors that are constantly checking the pressure and the temperature. It won't even actually start pressurizing unless the lid is locked in properly. And it makes a little sound when it is locked in properly. Also, it has an automatic steam release if the pressure gets too high. It might scare you a little bit. It'll just start steaming. That's not a bad thing. It's okay. It's totally normal. It's good. Basically what I'm saying is you can kind of set it and forget it. And what's really cool is it's not just a pressure cooker. You can do a lot more than just cook with pressure. You can steam, saute. You can make yogurt in this thing. So if you're still on the fence or feeling a little bit nervous about using one of these things, don't be. It's literally designed to be super user-friendly and easy to use. And once you get the hang of it, it's gonna become one of your most go-to appliances in the kitchen. In fact, for those that have watched our live streams, you might have noticed that a lot of the people, at the end of it, I usually ask, what's your go-to kitchen gadgets? Or if you could only recommend 3 to people, this ends up on a lot of people's lists.
Like an Instant Pot or pressure cooker.
Instant Pot for sure.
You need an Instapot.
So now that we've explained how it works, let me give you some tips so you can use this thing like a pro. Before diving into cooking, it's good to get familiar with a few basics so you feel comfortable and confident every single time you use your Instant Pot. Get the lid nice and snug. One of the most important and crucial things is that you put the lid on properly. See that clicked into place? There's even an arrow on here, I think. Is there? Yeah, right there. I'll do a close-up of it, don't worry. Like I said before, once you put it on properly, you're gonna hear a little chime to make sure it's working properly. And you're gonna see this arrows lined up. I know mine's a little dirty. It's gonna let you know that it's on properly. And the beauty is that if it's not sealed properly, like I said earlier, the pressure's not even gonna go on. It'll give you a little warning. So that's a good thing for you to know. It's not just gonna build up pressure if it's not safe and secure. Check your sealing ring. That's the thing inside of here. The main thing is you wanna make sure is that it is tucked inside of this metal ring and that it's just living inside of there nice and snug. Because if this thing is not in place, it also won't pressurize. I have had instances where I didn't check this before I put it on and it was just off even just a little bit. And that is enough that'll make it so it won't pressurize and your meal just won't cook. I've had many a late meal in this house because I didn't check that. It takes 2 seconds to do so. It's not a big deal. Here's another hot tip is that over time, this ring is going to absorb flavors and smells. This is what ours looks like now. It looked like this when we first got it. So this is the one we use for savory dishes, and this is the one we use for sweet things like oatmeal, so that my breakfast doesn't taste like last night's taco soup. Both things are delicious, but I don't want them to play together in the same meal. You can actually clean these things by just, soaking them in the sink in some white vinegar for like 30 minutes or so. We didn't do that. We just bought 2. Yeah. Where is it? Found it. So it also comes with this little trivet or steaming rack, as you call it. So what you're gonna wanna use this thing for if you wanna steam any vegetables, you put this inside and then there's room for about a cup's worth of water underneath it. And it's perfect for steaming beets, steaming potatoes. We've made a cheesecake using this. We've made lasagna using this because you're cooking with steam as opposed to another method. Pretty cool. Understanding the pressure pin. The pressure pin is this thing right here. So when you put your Instant Pot on, it's gonna be down like that. It's gonna be set inside of the machine. You know the pressure has activated because it does this. It pops up. And as long as that is up, the pressure is going on inside the machine and you won't be able to open it up until that goes down. Like that. We might even hear it go down. Click. So that's your best friend. Don't touch it while it's on because it's metal and it gets hot. This pressure pin is another really good indication whether or not your machine is working because if this thing doesn't pop up, it's not sealing and the pressure isn't pressurizing. This is the pressure valve right here. This is where the steam comes out. It comes off really, really easily. Just don't accidentally tap it while it's pressurized because steam will come out on its own. Now you might see some recipes that ask for a quick release or a natural release. What's that mean? It essentially means that for a natural release, you do nothing. You just let it sit until the pin pops down on its own and then you can open it up. If you're in a rush or you're cooking something like vegetables and you don't want them to get overcooked or soggy, you might want to use the quick release. Now what's gonna happen with that is you're gonna push this down. You might even have an Instant Pot that's got a couple different options. A venting or a sealing section. This one didn't have that. So if you push that down, steam is gonna come out of here. So what you wanna do is you wanna make sure you do that with an oven mitt on or like a spatula or something that has a bit of a distance. And also don't put this thing under your cupboards because the steam could warp them over time. Let it sit out as far away from your cupboards on the counter as you can. Also, if you've got a pot full of things, this might cause it to spray a little bit. So if it's doing that and you've got this pushed down, all you have to do is click it again and it'll pop back up and it'll stop the pressure from coming out of it. It's gonna be really, really steamy. It's gonna look a little, it's gonna be really, really steamy. It might look a little bit scary, but don't worry about it. As long as you don't touch the steam, you're safe. Just be careful. If you're using a recipe, it'll often tell you to quick release or natural release. I like to do a natural release for things like beans and also grains because it lets them get a little fluffier as well. But if you're doing something like a pasta in here or vegetables, like I mentioned, it's gonna make it soggy and you don't want that. So the Instant Pot that I've got here, I think is the 10-in-1. There's a lot of different models out there, but the principles are generally the same for most of them. Ours has this dial system on the front. A lot of them have buttons. They essentially do the same thing. And really, if you can master the pressure cook, the saute, and the steam options, you can use this for most things. Like really, a lot of these other options on here, like multi-grain, porridge, rice, they're really good, but all they really are, as far as I know, is they just memorize what setting you use last in terms of temperature and time, so you can go to it quickly and not have to think about it again. But essentially, most of the settings on here are the same as the pressure cook setting. So they try to trick you with the 7-in-1, 10-in-1, all that kind of stuff. If you Google what you're looking to do, you'll be able to figure it out. There's a keep warm function on the machine. If you've got the button version of this machine, there's a button for it. If not, it's part of the scroll down when you're setting your cooking time and whatnot. That's good for something like a soup. If you're putting a soup on and you want it to sit and just stay warm for a while, it's a natural thing that goes on automatically. If you don't want to use that, you've got to manually override that in your presets. It's really, really easy to do. Don't worry about it. The other feature that it has that I use a lot is the delayed start timer, which essentially is kind of like using a slow cooker in a way. Instead of it cooking all day long, you could put all your soup stuff in here and then tell it to delay start cooking for 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever you want. And that way it's just freshly cooked by the time you got home and it hasn't been sitting all day long. For those of us that eat whole food plant-based like my family, you don't really have to worry about things keeping warm all day long because none of it's gonna make you sick. If you are watching this video and you eat meat or dairy, consider what could happen if it's just sitting at room temperature all day. At some point in your journey, you might see the dreaded burn message on here. Don't worry. All that means is that either you didn't add enough liquid in here or the liquid's really, really thick. Essentially, it's a liquid problem. You just gotta add a little bit more. I have had instances where I've made like my morning oatmeal with pumpkin in here, and it does give me that burn warning sometimes. In those cases, I've literally just splashed some non-dairy plant milk in here and let it sit, and it cleans itself up really well. It's stainless steel, right? So it's really versatile. It cleans up really, really well. We love it so much. Here's the nasty part that I forgot to mention is that it collects liquid inside of here. So you want to check this. This is at the back of the Instant Pot, and you just want to look at this every now and then to see if it's building up, and you want to pour it out and maybe give it a wash. It's been a little while since we gave ours a wash. Don't tell Wooly I showed it to you. Here's another fun thing I literally just learned, having used this machine for many, many years. This little notch fits into this notch. And it can sit upright like that. This is literally something I wish I would have known for forever because there's so many times I'm trying to figure out where to put the lid while I'm cooking and whatnot. That's a weird little game changer that blew my mind. Let me know in the comments down below if that's something that you didn't know. Now, let's talk about how we cook grains, beans, and legumes in this thing. One of the absolute best things about a pressure cooker is that it cooks things like beans, grains, and legumes really consistently. And I mean, you just pump and dump. You walk away and then it comes back and it's done. Since we've gotten this thing, I have not cooked rice on the stove. I have not bought a can of beans, even for emergency purposes, because you can cook beans from scratch in less than an hour in this thing. Keep in mind for cooking times, you always have to equate that there's a time it takes for it to come up to time and the natural release. So for example, if I'm cooking a soup in here for 12 minutes, it's gonna take probably 5 to 10 minutes to come up to temperature. And then it's gonna take the 10 or 12 minutes to cook. And then depending on how much liquid is in here, it might take another 20 to 30 minutes to come down to a natural release. So it might not necessarily save you as much time as you're thinking for some things. It's also time you're not sitting here babysitting it. So you could be reading a book, doing some work, walking the dog, watching one of these videos. I mean, you do you. So let's talk about beans and legumes. So because of the high pressure, this thing cooks things like beans and legumes that have a tough exterior effortlessly. And if you time it properly, it does a great job of breaking down those hard to cook fibers while still maintaining a really good texture. We used to cook our own beans on the stovetop, and that required you to soak them overnight and also still cook them for hours the next day. It sucked. I will never go back to that. And the beautiful thing about this is that you can buy dried beans in bulk and they just sit in your cupboard. They will never go bad. And you can save a ton of money by not buying canned. So how do you cook your beans? Rinse them first. Just in case there's any dust or debris inside of them, run them through a little strainer. So to soak or not soak? Well, this is really a personal choice. Some people that have gut challenges might benefit from soaking them in advance because it means that they're going to digest a little bit better in your system. Now, you will have to adjust the cooking time if you've soaked in advance because obviously they need to cook for a lot less time. When it comes to the water and bean ratio, I like to think 3 cups of water to 1 cup of beans is about perfect. Now, if you're doing chickpeas and you want to maintain the aquafaba for using as aquafaba, I have another video about that where I give kind of my recipe for that, and it's a little bit different than that. So I'll link to that in the description down below. For legumes, you want to be a little bit more specific. I believe for lentils, you need like a cup of lentils to 1 3/4 cups of water. And then depending on how firm you want your lentils, and by this I mean green lentils, it's like anywhere from like 7 to 10 minutes for a mushier or firmer bean. The other cool thing is that you can flavor your beans while they're in here. You can throw in some fresh or dried herbs. The only thing you don't want to put in there is salt. You can add that after because if you put it in before, it's gonna result in a tougher bean. Now I know what you're asking, how long do I cook things in here? I don't want to waste your time and bore you by going through every single bean or legume all at once. So as you see right here, I have got a trusty guide that I have used over the years. And here I've got soaking and non-soaking time. My pressure cooker is a few years old, so I don't know if newer ones are a little bit different in their timing. Start with the ones I've got here and then just make note if they are undercooked, overcooked, and then adjust as you go. Make your own little chart and notebook for this. The best thing about cooking your own beans and legumes and something like this is if you know you're gonna use a similar type over the next week or the next month, you can batch cook them and freeze them in like 1/2 cup to 1 cup increments. Just use a measuring cup, put them upside down on a baking sheet and put them in your freezer. And then once they're frozen solid, just put them inside of like a bag of some kind and just know that they're there for quick meals. That's your new version of a canned bean. Freeze them. Pull them out when you need them. Now let's talk about grains. So anything from oats, brown rice, quinoa, farro, they are all Instant Pot all-stars. And what I love about cooking grains in this thing is they come out perfect every single time. They're not overcooked, they're not mushy, they're not cooked unevenly. Honestly, it's magic what this thing does with grains. Now, when it comes to grains, the cooking is a little bit more specific than when you're using beans. Essentially, with beans, you can cook it like pasta. You just put in a ton of water and the beans, and then you're gonna drain the liquid afterwards. But when it comes to the liquid with your grains, you need a specific amount so that they absorb properly. This chart over here is what I use to cook my grains. The cooking time is also listed in this chart. Worst case scenario, just Google it. I don't always reference my own chart in my notebook because sometimes in the kitchen, I'm just going on the fly. Just type in Instant Pot whatever you're cooking, and someone has the information out there for you. And if you find yours cooked not enough, too much, whatever it is, not enough liquid, too much liquid, just keep on modifying based on the model that you've got. This is another opportunity to add flavor as well, just like with the beans. I will often cook things like rice with some vegetable broth and some other seasonings and herbs, maybe a little bit of lemon in there. I've also made like a Mexican rice on this channel using this by adding some tomato sauce and herbs while I'm cooking it. When I make my morning oatmeal, I usually do a blend of non-dairy milk and water to give it like a creamier kind of vibe. Cooking grains is also where you are more susceptible to getting that burn warning as well, because if you get the ratio of liquid to water wrong. But also make sure once you add the liquid and the grains together, you give it a good stir so everything's nicely mixed. When it comes to grains, I strongly recommend that you use the natural release function. It helps them finish cooking, it lets them steam a little bit, and it honestly results in a fluffier texture. I like fluffy. I hope all of this information helps you feel more confident when using your Instant Pot. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. I know what you're saying, Jeremy, what about the recipes? Well, if you've watched this channel, you've seen no shortage of times we've used this thing to make recipes. In fact, I highly recommend you watching one of these two videos. This video is the review we did of Nisha Vora's Instant Pot cookbook, her vegan Instant Pot cookbook. And this is a video we did on our favorite Instant Pot recipes. So one of those two will give you lots of ideas, but you can also just Google whatever it is you want to make an Instant Pot and someone will have something for you.